Good morning. Hey guys, over there, come over here. It will be fun. I promise. I will be making fun of you, so come over. So today we'll be talking about the green rush. So rush in here. I know that there's very many people in the other portion of the room. So we'll be talking about cannabis today. And I just spoke this morning with other people. Yes, just like you will be talking about cannabis, and I grew hemp. Okay, so let me start with some definitions. I want to set the stage and tell you about new terminology that I want to introduce you to. So first of all, what you see on the screen, are you familiar with these pictures? Yes or no? Yes, some are familiar, some are showing me thumbs up. So this is what commonly was known as cannabis. This is high THC cannabis, also known as pot, ganja, marijuana, Mary Jane. And recently I was speaking to a cannabis, a high THC cannabis crowd, and they told me it's called electric lettuce. And I love this name. So keep in mind, this is cannabis, high THC cannabis. Sometimes you're getting up to 30%. You can see two types of high THC cannabis production, household production and commercial production. So the other type of cannabis is low THC cannabis, commonly known as hemp. Okay, quiz number one. Can you name three differences between two panels, left hand panel and right hand panel? What is the difference between low and high THC cannabis? If you don't know which crop is this, look at these two panels and tell me three differences. Louder, I cannot hear you. Height, number one. Inside, outside, perfect. You're not sleeping. And the third? What did you say, Ken? Strange guy. You're not on the picture, so it's no strange guys out there. And the size and overall appearance of these two crops. So you've perfectly identified differences between low and high THC cannabis. And believe me, not everybody can do it. I can show you something like here. This is my breeding nursery of this tall variety called Silesia. And you might notice that some of this plant was vandalized, was stolen. Actually, the flower heads, that was like this mighty flower head, was actually 23 of them were stolen. So people came to low THC cannabis, known as industrial hemp, and stole flower heads, hoping for getting what? Absolutely, to get happy. I was very unhappy that they did it, but it tells me that there's lots of work is needed to educate people between high and low THC cannabis. Okay, so you see the differences. People cannot understand the differences. So I said that this both high and low THC cannabis, they are grown for different purposes. What are we growing high THC cannabis, aka marijuana? For THC, for this compound that gets you high, right? So what we are growing industrial hemp for is grain, fiber, and feed right now. Not right now, feed hopefully will be coming soon. So what's in common? Why I call high and low THC cannabis? What's in common? Oh, come on. Will, what's in common? Absolutely. That's what these two subspecies have in common, is level of cannabidiol or CBD. I've heard that I know that you've heard this term, and I will explain you what this CBD is about very shortly. Okay, so Ken asked me to talk about regulations. So you might know that 20 years ago, in 1998, here in Canada, low THC cannabis or industrial hemp was legalized. So what constitutes industrial hemp? What I mean by low THC in Canada has to have less than 0.3% of THC in flowering plants, flower heads. That constitutes industrial hemp. And industrial hemp 20 years ago was allowed for production of food and fiber. However, flower heads, leaves, or all what was not fiber or grain could not be removed from the field, had to drop down and decay. And you might know that THC or other cannabinoids, including CBD, are located in flowers, bracts, and leaves. So what happened in 2001? Very many people don't realize that in 2001, in July to be specific, we got here in Canada access to marijuana or high THC cannabis for medical purposes. And terminally ill, people with chronic pain, MS patients were allowed to have access to medicinal marijuana, and they got access to legally grown medicinal marijuana. So what happened in October, specifically on October 17th this year? Everybody was excited. All my friends, city slickers, were excited about this new Cannabis Act. Oh yeah, just we can grow 4 plants on our window sills. We can go and purchase bats, electric lettuce, or whatever you call it, for personal use. I also got very excited, but not for the reasons that you are thinking, that you got perhaps excited. I was excited, and Keith was excited, and very many people who are hemp growers. Can you identify yourself hemp growers? Low THC cannabis growers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 usual suspects. So we got excited. Why? Because this new Cannabis Act allows for whole crop utilization. So it means that we can collect both grain, fiber, and whatever residues or whatever other parts of the plant, whole crop utilization. And as I said, and I will be talking about, non-narcotic cannabinoids like CBD and others are located in these parts of the plant that had to, until specifically what was August 10th, they had to decay in the field. So I distinguish actually three major types of low THC cannabis or industrial hemp. First is a grain type, and Keith, you may recognize this is your farm. This is you guys are growing grain type variety or varieties. They are short stature. Look at this. I'm not a very tall guy. And this phenola was roughly, just like 4 feet tall. Typically, they produce high seed yield, and typically they produce a low or very low fiber yield, or they have a very low stem yield. The other usage type that I distinguish is grain, fiber or dual purpose type. Look at the size of these plants. This is our variety Silesia, tall or very tall plants. Stem yield is very high, consequently yield of fiber, and often they have lower seed yields, but sometimes not necessarily. And again, Keith, you may recognize your fiber. This is Roland Seeds fiber. Okay, and I also said that we have the third usage type in the works. This is usage type that varieties that will be grown for cannabinoids. What happened during this 20 years in Canada, hemp acres were driven exclusively to be specific, by grain growers, grain processors, those who contracted hemp for grain. In the last couple of years, we're seeing increase in hemp production for grain. If we still don't have 2018 data, we are expecting that will be just a drop in the production in 2018. Health Canada hasn't released this 2018 data, so hopefully in the future the yield production of hemp will get back to normal. What I mean by normal, that's what we are seeing in Alberta. Over the last 8 to 7 years, we're just growing linearly. Our acres were growing linearly, and this is the only one province that was steadily growing. Production in the province was going up. Last year, in 2017, we accounted for 1/3 of Canadian acres. Good job, those of you who are growing hemp. Okay, so as I said, as of October 17, or actually August 10th, we can grow hemp as a multi-purpose crop. And that's what is our current Canadian focus. Every single plant, part of this plant can be used, can be sold for money. And by the way, this is our silesia, but when you look at this picture, it's only optical illusion. This plant is not taller than the telephone pole, but we are getting there, we are getting there. So give us a few years and we'll get there. So, as I said, every single part of this plant can be used for grain, production of grain, for food and cosmetics, as I will be showing momentarily, CBD oil, and of course for fiber, and actually 2 types of fiber. We have bast fiber and short fiber. Bast fiber is this core, is the skin or bark that I peeled off for you in here, and accounts for 15 to 20% of the stems. And the core fiber or hurd accounts for roughly 70%. They have 2 different applications that I will be talking about. So, as I was introduced, yes, indeed, like 16 years ago at Innotech Alberta, used to be known as Alberta Research Council, I established this program from seed to final product. So we are just like this is the only one, if I would dare to say, in North America, organization that addresses needs of hemp growers from seed, from gene to final product. We have this research continuum that includes feedstock development, fiber processing, and composite research. So in collaboration with Farming Smarter and several and few other organizations like Mike mentioned, SARDA, we run agronomy trials at 3 locations across Alberta. We addressed a suite of agronomy practices that are relevant for hemp growers. And all this information can be found on internet. So if you're just contemplating growing hemp, you can have easy access to our electronic guide, which was supported by the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance and is maintained on the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance webpage. So we collectively, with support of Farming Smarter, we collected body of evidences how to grow hemp and what to do and what not to do. This is really important to know what not to do. So, you know, just like as I said, hemp is grown for the seeds, for grain to be specific. However, there's current practices, and I have maybe with exception of Rod Lanier, who is sitting there, majority of guys are trying to introduce agronomic practices that will be resulting in the lowest possible volume of stems. So it means that, you know, just like farmers are growing or prefer this grain type varieties, delay seeding date. Simply, hemp straw is not liked by grain growers. However, hemp fiber has great potential to be a valuable feedstock for very many well-established industries. And I know that Ken was asking me, hey, so what happened to this here in southern Alberta? So what happened to these guys 5, 6 years ago in Chin? They were about to set up processing facility. What happened to these guys in Chin? They left Canada, and they were pioneers. So pioneers, guys, quite often have to pay a price. At that time, this 5, 6 years ago, they were ready, we were not ready. Market was not fully established. So that's why, and I'm really happy that they withdrew before they put, just like a money and started developing this facility, because farmers didn't suffer disappointment at this point of time. So, as I said, we have a research continuum, and in Vegreville, we have the only one of its kind fiber processing facility, or we call it decortication or fiber separation facility, that produces these 2 types of fiber, as I was showing you on the stem, bast fiber and hurd. And people are asking me, okay, so you have this processing facility that is nice and dandy. So what this facility is for? It was established 7 years ago, and initially, indeed, we were working for 2, 3, maybe 10 days a year. Right now, our facility, again, because it's the only one, just like in Canada and in the world of this type, we're working long shifts. Why? Because, believe or not, or maybe you are not aware, that we have already established fiber buyers, manufacturers who are using fiber for development of their products. So in here, this is a list of our clients who are just buying fiber or 2 types, bast and hurd fiber from us. You can see that we have a variety of industries that are already using, for example, Drayton Valley biocomposites groups. We cannot produce enough fiber for them, so they have to buy fiber from Europe, from elsewhere. You might notice at the, what kind of industries are just using our fiber, grown here in Alberta and processed here in Alberta. Everything from construction to nanomaterials. So including bedding, mushroom growers, packaging, and you name it. So now I want to just quickly show you highlight a few of these leading companies. As I said, biocomposites group out of Drayton Valley. Right now, they are just like, as I said, they have to import bast fiber from elsewhere because we don't have processing capacity here in Canada or in Alberta, and they are already manufacturing airlane mats. They have projects with a major automaker for biocomposite production. The other is just biofiber out here from Airdrie, and they developed this modular building block system. I call this blocks that they are using, Lego blocks on steroids. Very easy construction system. If you want to, I encourage you to look at this link. And this, what was like is artist rendering on this picture, the bottom picture, is already inhabited, is in Souk on Vancouver Island. Great, great property. They are building more show homes like this. The other one is in Kelowna. So next one is closer to here. Sorry, this is still Natural Fiber Technologies. So they are out of Edmonton, and they are also constructing, forming construction materials, insulation, and they are just really big into this composite, wood-like composites using hemp hurd. Next one, that's what I wanted to talk, is Canadian Greenfield Technologies here from Calgary. Look at this skate park and swimming pool. They are using hemp fiber. Initially, we were just providing them with fiber. Now they have own fiber processing equipment, and they won a contract bid on Beijing Olympics 2020 Winter Olympics, and they will be constructing with hemp a bobsled track. So it's real, guys. It is real. That's what I'm trying to say, that this is absolutely real. It's not like this chin factory that never appeared. Textile applications. We are collaborating with very many people in, particularly in Quebec, the largest uniform manufacturing company. These jeans that I'm wearing in here, they were made out of our hemp, and then manufactured in Colombia, because you know, just like a textile factories are just like, it's simply too expensive. And I want to draw your attention, ladies, to this underwear, for example, because people are thinking, and boys too, you can look at this, because people are thinking, oh yeah, just hemp fiber is like burlap bag, and it's no. If you know what you are doing, if you know how to process, you can get fiber quality that is suitable for fine textiles. And you know, just like this is all made out of, this is one of my backpacks here made out of hemp, and it's really interesting. If you look at this picture, you will see that it's like you can see perhaps the hemp leaf, and it states no THC. Yes, indeed, hemp fiber doesn't contain THC, as some people might think, because lately I was not asked, hey Jan, so can you smoke your backpack or your t-shirt? Well, you can smoke, but you cannot get high. You will die from suffocation of incomplete combustion of cellulose. So there's no THC. I mentioned nano, speaking about cellulose. This is nanomaterials. We're working with, this is a project initial stage. We're working with University of Alberta, developing with our collaborators, supercapacitors and batteries. If you look at this micro photograph, on the right top panel, this is our silesia. This is, forms graphene-like structure that can be used, as I said, for supercapacitors. Super cool application of hemp. So hemp can be used for fun stuff as well, not only for building and underwear. So we are showing here longboards, skateboards, and motorcycles. Why skateboards? Why longboards? To show physical properties. When you have biocomposites, you can replace very successfully glass fiber with hemp fiber. You are getting materials 30% lighter, yet having similar or better physical properties. Okay, so this is enough about fiber, food and more. So you know that. I hope that you had your hemp food. No, today you couldn't have your hemp food. But finally, we're getting a better and better understanding of hemp food products or benefits. However, only 4% of us in Canada, 4% of households are using hemp food products on a regular basis. Only less than 4%. Okay, question number 2. Before October 17, what was the percentage of people who had a contact or were using high THC cannabis? Louder? 20. Any other numbers? 15? 1%. Oh, come on, guys, you didn't go to colleges or what? Okay. It was over 60%. I know this is mostly farming community. Some other crowds that I talk to, they say, Jan, we all went to colleges. So, and indeed, it's over 60% of Canadian population uses high THC hemp as opposed to low THC hemp. So benefits, omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, perfect. You know, just like this, exactly the same ratio we have in our brain, has anti-inflammatory, cardioprotective, and immunostimulant properties. And we are talking only about hemp food. Of course, contains all essential and non-essential amino acids and very many phytonutrients. So it is considered superfood. Keith can perhaps, if you want to learn more, ask him. Hemp can be used and is used for manufacturing or production of cosmetics. One is the Body Shop, and I credit them for destigmatizing hemp because they launched a line of products using hemp. And this is the bottom panel is our shelf in our bathroom. So we have Alberta-made hemp cosmetics. If you come to Vegreville, and you're cordially invited, I will welcome you to show our decortication facility. You will walk through our admin area. Every single admin has hemp hand lotion. And I didn't endorse, they simply realized that it is a really great product. Okay, so we're talking about fiber, we're talking about food, and let me finish up with cannabinoids. As I said, in addition to narcotic THC, this cannabinoid that the vast majority is familiar with, hemp contains this non-narcotic, but listen to that, listen, non-narcotic yet psychoactive compound that is called CBD or other cannabinoids. Can you see the difference, narcotic and psychoactive? These are two very different things. CBD, cannabidiol, is non-addictive and has very many clinically proven medical benefits. So it's psychoactive because, for example, it works for anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, epilepsy, affects your nervous system, but it is not narcotic. So guys, distinguish between narcotic and psychoactive, okay? So we're talking to growers, so there are three major factors that affect levels of CBD, this non-narcotic cannabinoid in your hemp plants. I call it a GEM, and the G stands for genetics. Here in Canada right now we have varieties that are registered and are allowed for cultivation that contain between 1 and 4%. Typically they are mostly, they are just predominantly around this 1.5%. In the US and elsewhere they have hemp varieties that have 15 or more % of CBD. The other factor that determines how much CBD you have in your plants is environment. So the secondary metabolite levels of it greatly depend on weather pattern. It is drought, it is early frost, it's early snow like in Vegreville we got on September 12th. All these factors will affect CBD in your plants. And finally, M stands for management. And by management, I mean harvest time, I mean fertility, because in our greenhouse study, we found that if we manipulate with fertility, for example, with potassium, you can double levels of cannabinoids or CBD in your crop. So this is what you have in the plant, right? GEM, genetics, environment, and management. And here I'm showing you just like our 2016 data. We harvested 12 or 14 varieties of hemp at different stages, developmental stages, from early, well, just like a pre-flowering, so it was like 3-4 weeks before flowering till seed harvest. And you can see on this graph that different varieties respond or have different dynamics of CBD synthesis and degradation. The good news is, for grain growers, that some varieties, they pick and then levels of cannabinoids are going down slowly. So it means that you have a point, or there is a reason for collecting chaff, not only harvesting hemp at this flowering stage, as everybody is talking, I have to harvest at flowering stage, so it means that I cannot get seeds. So this is 2016. Since then we collected data 2017-18, and this year we have data from across Canada. So it is really, this information confirms if you know how to grow your hemp, if you know how to manage your hemp, you can get indeed these three revenue streams from grain, fiber, and cannabinoids. People are talking CBD, CBD, CBD. There is way more. We are just like in my lab, we're analyzing or profiling 10 major cannabinoids. And this graph, I want to show you that there are other like CBG, cannabigerol, and cannabinol, CBN, and very many others. They are these minor cannabinoids, and they have great properties. And again, medicinal properties. There is these minor cannabinoids are much more expensive than CBD. So I was telling you what determines CBD levels in the plant. However, how much CBD you will get or how much CBD you will be paid for depends on some other factors. So first of all is harvestable CBD, this gem. The next one is harvest method. So if you're just like harvesting at this flowering stage, or if you're harvesting, collecting chaff, and what kind of equipment you are using. So you might use, and this is what I'm illustrating in here on this, what is that? That will be a right-hand panel. It's a specialized equipment that snips off flower heads and gets to this, cards at flowering stage. We don't have this equipment right now in Canada. At least I'm not aware of. This is like a system that is available in Europe. Here I'm showing old picture of some chaff collector. I will talk on the next slide a bit more. The next factor that will be affecting levels of CBD in your crop will be a drying method. And this is extremely important, particularly if you're just like collecting flower heads at early flowering stage. You know, just you have to dry this material down. And on the opposite, so that's the left-hand side, I'm showing picture, surface of hemp flower. On the hemp flower is covered with these hairy structures that we call trichomes. And all cannabinoids are found in these trichomes. They are really brittle structures. So when you're just like drying, when you're handling or mishandling, you will simply break off these brittle structures, and then you will be just like moving for processors biomass that is deprived from THC, CBD, and other cannabinoids. This is extremely important. So the way how you dry your material, how you treat your material is extremely important. And finally, storage. Just like at what temperature you are storing, what is moisture content. If you're getting too wet, molds will start growing and your material won't be sellable. And the last factor that affects yields of CBD is extraction methods. There's 4 groups of extraction, including supercritical CO2 solvents, microwave, and enzymes. And look what I'm going to put on the slide right now. You know, just like typically, over half of cannabinoids, over half of this gem that you have are lost during post-harvest processing, particularly due to improper handling and drying. So keep in mind, yes, this is lots of money to be made on CBD and other cannabinoids, but you have to be very particular. So I mentioned that harvesting is really a tricky part of it. So this year we got first time specialized service providers. If you don't know how to do it the true North Cannabis. They offer equipment and infrastructure, and Will told me that they were using this company to collect their chaff, and they provide tracking and logistics, and they also provide agronomy support. If you want to learn more, talk to Will, is sitting at my table. Will, wave your hand. So people are asking me, okay, you know, just like a high THC cannabis is laden with cannabinoids, so why you bother dealing with low THC cannabis or hemp? Why? Because industrial hemp low THC cannabis will be the major source of CBD and other minor non-narcotic cannabinoids. Why? Because right now, if we calculate number of hectares plus just content, we can get roughly 1,800 tons of CBD, what we had this year or last year in the crop. The new model, when we increase our acres, and Keith is nodding, we will get varieties in a couple of years that will be having more than 3, 4, 5%. We can get up to 15,000 tons. When you compare this, last year, the latest data was 140,000 acres of industrial hemp containing CBD. When we compare with indoor production of high THC cannabis or marijuana, they are growing on 300 acres. So we are comparing apples and oranges. And I looked at, spoke yesterday, no, not yesterday, 2 days ago with a guy from Colorado. So they have 70% of hemp grown, industrial hemp grown in the States is grown for CBD. 70% of hemp is grown for CBD. In Colorado itself, they have 600 growers, handkerchief-sized growers. I call them gardeners. And they have 200 processors. So there is extractors of CBD. Keep in mind, CBD will be coming from our crop. CBD won't be coming primarily from our crop, won't be coming from marijuana. So why I said so? Because it was 2 years ago, Keith, when we put together economics of low THC cannabis or industrial hemp. And CHTA, Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance, we claim that by 2023, industrial hemp will be a $1 billion crop. And this number will be achieved because of transformational growth due to production of CBD. So this is an excerpt from Keith's presentation, and we are showing that because of this CBD story, the third revenue stream will be increasing jobs numbers, will be increasing investment, and will be increasing seeded acres. So I want to end up my presentation with showing some bottlenecks. First of all, and this is really perfect timing, Keith brought me in here just some samples of hemp in here. No, you cannot roll it and you cannot smoke it, okay? Because I hear somebody is laughing. No, this is grain, and mind you, grain doesn't contain any cannabinoids or traces of cannabinoids. You can eat kilograms, you will get diarrhea, but you cannot get high. Seriously, don't try at home. So we are just in a process of legalizing hemp as animal feed. This is what our laboratory will be testing and proving that, guys, cows cannot get high. Milk producers, you cannot get high from drinking milk or eating cheese. So this is well, I call it stupid, but this is what we have to do it. We have to prove it the obvious. How many times? Next is market development. As I said, only just 4% of Canadian households consumes hemp as opposed to high THC cannabis. We have to raise awareness of benefits of industrial hemp in these three revenue streams. So that's guys, just like don't be shy, buy hemp products, either grain, either fiber products, and soon non-narcotic cannabinoids. Customer preferences. We are seeing more and more people preferring organically grown hemp. Keith, right now we have what, 10–15% of Canadian acres are organic, and the rest is conventional. Customers prefer organic, so we need to get more organic growers. unstable markets. So as I said before, we are expecting that 2018 acres went substantially down. Why? Because of international markets. We don't eat enough hemp, so we cannot sustain, support all production. We have to rely on exports. I said that in this other model that CBD varieties will be having 10 to 15% of CBD. There is very many accessions with high CBD. However, to get them registered for commercial cultivation in Canada, we need 3 years of THC data to be provided to Health Canada. So don't expect the high CBD varieties within next year or so. I mentioned that we need dual equipment that is capable of harvesting dual purpose varieties, and for fiber we need fiber processing facilities. Few are in the works as we speak, and they won't be like the Chin, infamous Chin facility. I collaborate or advise to these guys who are locating processing facility. So if Ken invites me in a year or 2 years, I will be showing pictures of these facilities. Okay, so the last slide I want to show, briefly mention short and long-term research goals. Of course, for breeding, it will be elevated CBD varieties. And the truth is that we also have to, Keith, work with Health Canada and get increased THC limits to preferably to 1%. Why? Because CBD and THC biochemical pathways are interwoven. Drought resistance. We're talking today that just drought is a problem. So this is, and I know from my previous research, I identified huge differences in terms of water use efficiency, drought resistance. Fine-tuning of agronomy. We already just like I started doing this. Crop rotation, Mike was talking about this big experiment trials on crop rotation were triggered by our affinity to hemp and to flax, evaluation of disease and pest pressure. Crop protection, for those who want to stay conventional, we need to have good crop protection packages. The other is effects of micronutrients on yield of grain and fiber and CBD. And this is what we have already started, and I can tell you this is really excited. Accumulation of toxic metals, particularly cadmium in grain. And I have first set of data got last week, and believe me, varieties differ in propensity, as we call, in cadmium accumulation. Why is so important? Because high levels of cadmium in grain might shut down or shuts down our export markets. And livestock feeding studies, that's what we are just like talking on. We need standards and grading for different fiber applications. Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance, we have already started this process. And the last is evaluation of cannabinoid potency. We know that they are good, but we have to evaluate potency of cannabinoids. So with that, I have because people, Linda said, oh, I don't have Christmas gifts for you. I have a virtual Christmas gift for you, so you can pick your favorite Christmas tree. So look at the screen and pick your favorite Christmas tree. So do you have preferences? Are you familiar with these Christmas trees? Yes or no? Rod, can you explain what kind of Christmas trees are these? They are buds. Yes, this is high THC cannabis. I don't endorse using it. They look like Christmas trees with decorations. But seriously, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.